If coffee, energy drinks, or pre-workout are the only things keeping you functional, well, this video is for you, because caffeine, it is not the villain here, but if your day falls apart without it, something else is missing. And if you haven't watched episode 1 in this series about outdated operating systems and burnout, go watch that first. This video builds directly on it. And I just want to say this up front though, because people get very, very defensive when I start harping on about caffeine. Look, I'm not anti-coffee, I'm not anti-pre-workout, I'm not even anti-energy drinks, but I am anti-pretending they're some sort of solution. High performers, they don't usually see caffeine as a habit. They see it as infrastructure, basically. Coffee to start the day, another one to have a focus, something stronger to survive the afternoon, pre-workout to push through exhaustion. And high performers don't feel addicted. What they feel is dependent, and dependency, it's always information. Now, I worked with a business owner who joked that coffee was basically their personality. First thing in the morning, before food, second cup during emails, third mid-morning to concentrate, energy drink mid-afternoon to avoid crashing, and then a pre-workout just to make it through training in the evening. Now, they weren't lazy, they were unmotivated, they were exhausted. But because caffeine kept them alert, they assumed they were fine. Now, here's the thing, alert is not the same as energized, and that confusion is exactly where burnout thrives. Now, caffeine, it doesn't actually give you energy. What it does is it stimulates your nervous system and blocks fatigue signals temporarily. That's it, right? And when your body is fueled, hydrated, rested, and recovering well, caffeine, it enhances performance. And when it's not, caffeine becomes a mask. And the problem with masks is that you keep adding layers instead of fixing the issue underneath. And over time, this shows up as anxiety without an obvious cause, shallow or broken sleep, poor training recovery, gut issues, irritability, afternoon crashes, feeling wired but flat. And if that sounds familiar, it's not because you need more caffeine, it's because your system is under-supported. Now, high performers live on stimulation, deadlines, decisions, pressure, responsibility, constant output. Caffeine fits perfectly into that environment, right? It feels productive, it feels sharp and controlled until it doesn't. And if you already live in fight or flight, caffeine just pushes the accelerator harder, right? And eventually the engine, it overheats. Now, this one is huge, especially for busy business owners. Coffee before food, or coffee instead of food in a lot of situations. Now, what that does physiologically is 1, it spikes cortisol, 2, destabilizes blood sugar, 3, suppresses appetite early, and 4, increases cravings later. So then people say, I'm not hungry in the morning. Well, you're not meant to be when stress hormones are running the bloody show of your life. And then by mid-morning, that crash, it hits. So it's more caffeine, more sugar, more stimulation, and that cycle, it perpetuates. And this is why I talk so much about fueling earlier in the day, not eating more, but eating sooner. Now, I go deep on this in episode 3, where I break down why skipping meals during the day almost guarantees nighttime chaos. And if that's you, make sure you go watch that one next. Now, here's the other thing high performers underestimate. Now, you might fall asleep fine, right? But caffeine, it can still destroy sleep quality, especially if, you're sensitive to stimulants, or you're already stressed, you're underfueled, or you drink caffeine later than you actually think. Poor sleep, it doesn't always mean insomnia. Sometimes it means shallow sleep. Yeah, you wake up tired, your brain never fully shuts down, and your nervous system stays alert. And then, what do you reach for the next day? More caffeine. Now, I've already got videos on this channel breaking down why you can feel exhausted even when you sleep, and this ties directly into stimulant reliance. And if that sounds like you, I'll link to that video below in the show notes. So this one I see constantly with driven people. They're exhausted, so they use pre-workout to train harder. Training feels productive. Sweat feels like control, but When recovery is already low, stimulants plus hard training is just more stress on the system, right? So instead of regulating stress, movement, it becomes another hit. Performance stalls, motivation drops, energy problems creep in, and so do injuries. And then people think the answer is more motivation. It's not. It's smarter load management, right? And I'll be covering this properly in the training and recovery episode, because training hard will not save you if you're not recovering. Now, high performers confuse alertness with capacity. Stimulation, it feels like energy. Capacity feels calm. Real energy, it's stable, it's repeatable, it's reliable, and it's not dependent on a substance. And when your nervous system is supported, with caffeine, it then becomes optional. It's not forbidden or demonized or unnecessary. Okay? The goal is for it to just be something that you can have when you want, right? Now, not quitting caffeine, right? We want to fix what it's compensating for. And what that usually means is that we eat earlier, we have a consistent protein intake, we have proper hydration, we have movement that bleeds off stress hormones, very important. We get real transitions between work and rest, and we're protecting our sleep. And once all those things are in place, right, well, people naturally reduce caffeine without trying. And that's how you know the system is working. Now, this pattern is something I see constantly with business owners inside the Mojo Dojo, my online learning academy. Not caffeine addiction, but under-supported systems. And once the foundations are rebuilt, energized stability, it basically means that you lose your grip with stimulants, right? Start that again. Now, this pattern is something I see constantly with business owners inside the Mojo Dojo. Not caffeine addiction, but under-supported systems. Now, once the foundations are rebuilt, energy stabilizes, and stimulants, they lose their grip. No rules, no detoxes, no white knuckling, just support. And if this video hit home, please don't stop here. Watch the skipping meals episode next, because underfueling is one of the biggest drivers of caffeine dependence. And then the training and recovery episode. Burnout, it never has just one cause. And fixing it isn't about removing things. It's actually about building a system that can handle the pressure you're under.